Hello everyone, welcome to Word Funk. I'm Leon Thomas. I'm joined by Austin Yorsky and Johnny Maloney. They are both in varying degrees of uncomfortable with heat.
You say that like you're not.
Yeah,
and I know you are, Leon. I used to live in your neck of the woods. You know, like when I was a younger man. I used to live in Ontario. And
that's so close to where I am.
That was a sweaty time. Well, speaking climate-wise, okay, all right, okay. You know, like it's not so different. It's not because you've been to Ontario, you've been to Hamilton.
Yeah, I've been there a bunch of times, and it's like like here except a little cooler.
Yeah, it's that it was a sweaty time for me.
Okay.
And I used to live kind of like just outside Hamilton. I used to live in London, Ontario, among other places like Scarborough, which is just a fun word to say. Scarborough.
Yeah.
But yeah. So you too must be. I don't want to. I'm not trying to downplay how uncomfortable you must be. It sounds like it's really affecting Austin today.
Yeah. I mean, I can take, I have like several topics. Like Austin can just sit there and go, every once in a while.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but Austin's got you've got a huge list that's also been growing for like the past few weeks as well, don't you, Austin?
I can't talk this week.
No, it's fine. I'm going to talk about Voltron, and here we go. It's you guys can chime in.
Spoilers. We're just just so everybody knows, we're gonna jump. We're gonna jump right into this. I'm gonna stick my finger in the mashed potatoes.
Okay,
6 lions, too many.
Yeah. No. So the season was good, but the thing in the discourse that people are talking about is this. So I guess I'll broach like this subject. Depending on whether you're like a shit person. Or someone who demands a reasonable amount of representation in your media, you either thought the latest season of Voltron was either too gay or not gay enough.
Make the lions gay.
Yeah, respectively. If you thought the latest Voltron was too gay, I have no time for your bullshit in my life. Eat my entire butt.
Whole butt.
But if you thought the latest Voltron season was pretty gay, but could have used a bit more explicit references, I feel you.
Let the lions eat ass.
Yeah, in my mind, here's the thing.
Austin, you just want to see like one of them deep throat a tail?
I just think they should just live their best lives.
Yeah, basically, in this season, there's like a flashback scene where Shiro obviously has a boyfriend and he goes off to war or something, and the boyfriend is like, if you leave, I won't be here when you're back. Okay. In my mind, I thought Shiro's unambiguous boyfriend situation was totally clear, but it left just enough wiggle room for like assholes to say, well, they never kissed, so maybe it was his brother, because like some assholes don't want Shiro to be gay, and you don't want to leave assholes that wiggle room.
He's so gay. I mean,
yeah, it to me it's like extremely obvious, but that's like not the
Unless
point.
you see it go in, they're brothers. You have to be able to see it go in.
Also, two of Prince Lotor's like former cohorts or generals or whatever are two women who obviously like each other that way, but that's even more implied and not explicit. I want to say a couple things about this. I do object to this being called queer baiting because I'm under the impression that term means characters who are clearly not gay, but are given like close same-sex friendships and joke about their relationship being nearly romantic or sexual as a way to grab people to watch the show.
I don't think there's a hard and fast scientific definition that everyone agrees on. It's mostly just leveraging queer demand without actually delivering queer content.
Yeah, but that's not really the case with Shiro.
Sherlock was very, very guilty of that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's not, but this is not Sherlock. Voltron is not saying he's straight, but what if he's not? Voltron is saying Shiro is totally gay bones for this guy, but we're not going to have a scene where they make out for reasons. And that's, and I get that. Like, they're not going to show their relationship.
Show it going in.
And that's like, and it's only something you get near the tail end of the series.
More importantly, Austin, you have to hear it.
Okay. In my head, not ambiguous at all. If Shiro's boyfriend character were a woman, we would just assume that the way they speak to each other indicate that they're in a relationship. But because queer people understandably don't want to be in the margins, having them do basically like the Legend of Korra handhold ending isn't enough anymore, and that makes sense. Shiro doesn't, I mean, look, he doesn't need to like break the fourth wall, turn to the camera, and say, I'm totally gay. But he could have said, like, after the boyfriend's death, that he loved him, and that would have been like the bare minimum.
Or they could have had him be. They could have had the boyfriend be a character.
Yeah, exactly. Something better than that would have been seeing an actual relationship instead of like the Gayest flashback.
It wasn't. Yeah, so I know
early contender for the title, right there.
A lot of people are mad because it's a pretty classic trope that if you deign to include gay people, they have to die, at least one of them. And
there is also that. There's burying your gays, and that's a thing.
They might as well not have done it because there's one scene where he's like, "Hey, so I don't approve of your space stuff. Anyway, bye." And then 8 episodes later, you see his face on a wall of dead people. That's it. That's all the content.
He's very sad. Yeah, I basically the feeling was, hey, it's cool that it's here, but wouldn't it be much, much, much better if it were not like a cameo, a gay cameo? So yeah, I mean, I get that, and I agree, but I also think like, how do I put this? I basically I agree with that feeling about this season.
Yeah, we barely actually talked about the season, which is basically just the war season. There's very little character development. It's mostly people fighting.
Yeah. There's a big war. Earth has been taken over by the Galra, and Voltron comes back to Earth, and they're like, there's like a resistance here, so we'll join the resistance, and there's a lot of like betrayals and stuff, and it's good. It's a very good season. It's like basically to give like context to the thing we were talking about before, like 0.1% of the season is dedicated to gayness.
No. It could have been one episode, honestly. Like they could have just shown up and beat up the bad guys. Like not much actually happened.
Yeah.
But it was still exciting.
Can I just say though, Leon, that when you said gay cameo, like the immediate thought that jumped into my mind was like the Victorian like jewelry carving. And I just like a cameo like necklace,
Oh, okay.
And just immediately I just saw like Billy Eichner in like this Victorian carving of Billy Eichner in a cameo necklace, and I was like, I kind of want that jewelry now.
Oh God.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, I enjoyed the season. It could have been gayer, and it could have been actually, you know what, I was about to say it could have been longer, but no, this is one of the seasons where we actually got like a solid season, and it wasn't like half. So that was nice. I like that.
Yeah, you say it could have been gayer. I think they could have shown it going in, and I still would have been like, it could be gayer. Like, there's no reason to hold back. In fact, there were some interviews circling about this season and comparing them to interviews done by Rebecca Sugar from Steven Universe, where the Voltron people said, it's really hard. We have to fight behind the scenes for everything, and sometimes you just gotta take what you can get. And that was the Voltron interview. And in the Steven Universe one, Rebecca was like, "We might lose the show. I don't care. It's the right thing to do. This is my story, and I'm going to tell it. And damn the consequences, because people deserve this good queer shit." And it's like the contrast is pretty stark. But
I agree, but we don't really know we don't know how much sway that the people who make the show have for Voltron and the studio relationship between the people who make Voltron and the studio relationship between the people who make
Steven Universe.
Of course,
yeah.
but it's,
Right.
I mean,
We don't-
because in
Rebecca Sugar-
the end, you are like you're playing with people's lives as well. Like you're playing with jobs and things like that. You know, so like there's I'm not saying that it's like it's right to play it safe or anything like that, but you know, if somebody's afraid that the show is going to get canceled and all these people are going to like lose their jobs and whatnot, that could affect different people in way different ways.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how any of that stuff happened behind the scenes. I mean,
nobody does really, but it seems
Yeah.
like the showrunners wanted it to be gayer. The people who just make those decisions didn't, and there was a bad compromise.
Yeah,
So-
this was the compromise. It really does seem like a compromise, where it's like, oh, this is obviously gay, but we don't really get to see much.
And also, you know, we don't know how much of that is like how much of that lies at Netflix's feet, how much of that lies at DreamWorks' feet. You know, like what level.
International markets is like a whole thing. I know with
yeah. It's
I don't know. I'm not even.
it's
I'm not even interested in that so much. It's just like there's always going to be excuses, but also there's a clear right moral thing to do. And
I
Absolutely.
agree. No, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree with that. It's just a messed up situation. This reminds me of Adventure Time, where Pendleton Ward said that he basically there was people back behind the scenes in Adventure Time wanted to let people know in a very unambiguous way that Princess Bubblegum and Marceline used to date, but there were threats basically where like there in some markets the show would just be gone if that were to happen, and that sucks. And I agree that like there is a clear right and wrong here.
Yeah. Because it'd be considered like illegal propaganda in like Russia and so forth, and that sucks. That fucking sucks, and this world is worse for it. Also, sometimes you just got to make less money to do the right thing. I don't know. I'm not. Cartoon Network is not in the business of making moral decisions. I get it, but also that's what's wrong with the entire system.
Right.
So.
Well, a long time ago, before Michael Eisner was head of Disney, he was like head of a different company, and he made this sort of like big statement. He said, I'm not in business to make history. I'm in business to make money. But of course, when we make so much money, we will end up, as a side effect, making history. And that was like his like half artsy way of saying that he's just a businessman.
As Christopher Columbus first stepped into the New World, he shouted to the soon-to-be genocided natives, "I'm not here to make history. I'm here to make money."
Oh my god. So yeah, the new season of Voltron is good and mildly problematic for behind-the-scenes reasons, I guess. Maybe, here's the thing. It won't be enough. It will not be enough if in like the series finale, like there's lots of boy kissing, but like that would still be like the safest time to do it if the show is almost over, because the show is almost over.
Yeah, there's one more. That ends on a cliffhanger where it's like, hey, did you like that entire season of fighting? Well, next season we got a story. It's like, thanks. I love it.
Yeah, I want to be clear for the people who haven't seen this season. It's not literally one long action sequence.
It mostly
like
is.
It is like it's a season worth of the Raid Redemption.
That would have been so good.
It is in fact an action drama where like they're at war, and because of this, there are a lot of action scenes.
Can you imagine if it was just 12 episodes of Hunk killing Galar with a machete? That would have been sick as hell. Although I do like the bad guys feel dangerous for the first time in basically it's the whole series, because they've been just cannon fodder that Voltron rips through this entire run, and a lot of this is the regular humans trying to fight them and like not being able to even scratch a single guy. So
who loved the episode The Feud?
Yeah, there's always one weird joke episode. Last season it was the D&D episode. This week it's the reality show, game show episode, and it's. I'm gonna use a Leonism. was fine.
Oh, really? I loved it. That was my
fine.
favorite episode of the season.
It was
Yeah,
it was necessary for the pacing and for the tone,
Yeah.
to break it up a little bit. But yeah, it was fine.
I was all about it.
It made me laugh.
You know, here I noticed something while watching this season. None of these characters are real, but
Okay, where are you going with this one? You just had a revelation about fiction, huh?
yeah, no. What I'm trying to say is, like, none of these characters are real, but you can tell you start to like really care about the well-being of things that are not real when you're proud of, of fictional characters. When they got captured and they were about to grab and torture Pidge, Lance was the first person to like step up and like, no way, and like he was like handcuffed, but he like started fighting back, and it was like, yeah, Lance, you're a good person. Thank you for that. And I was like, hey, you're not real.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't still be watching the show if I wasn't invested in the characters. And they spent like 3 seasons. Really, the plot kind of stopped so they could just kind of do character work, and it was a little frustrating because the pacing got weird. But now it's been nothing but payoff for 2 seasons, so it's totally worth it.
Yeah, I love the show. It is apparently like next season is supposed to be the last because that is what they ordered. Unless someone changes their mind and says we love it, and we want there to be even more of this surprisingly very long show that's only been around for like 2 or 3 years. That's it.
Yeah, we talked
That's
like
what
for
I wanted to say
15 minutes on it. I was just one more thought. I was thinking it's hilarious how little the robot Voltron is actually ever involved in this show. Like, if he ever shows up, he gets his ass handed to him half the time. It's mostly about
if the show
like horny teens and their lions.
Yeah, it's fun. But yeah, I sure do like the show, and it's gonna suck when it's over. Adventure Time is also ending, so like within like the next like I guess several months, like 2 of my favorite animated shows are just done.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up. I just got through all the stuff that's on Hulu, so I think there's like a little bit more that I haven't seen, but I've almost seen every episode of Adventure Time, and there's like fucking hundreds, which is wild to me.
Yeah. Okay, I have other things I could talk about, but I guess I started that one, so that was my topic, even though it was all of our topic. So why don't I just pass the baton, and if anyone has something else they want to talk about, go ahead. I got like a couple more things, but
Johnny?
Yeah. I had an adventurous week. I did things. I finished The Witcher 3, you guys. Great.
With your video game.
That took a lot of time out of my life, and I just sort of feel like I have like ended a chapter. I'm like, well, that's a thing that I did, and it took me years to do.
It's one of those games that feels like capital I important. Like when you finish it, you're like, so I did that. Like I read Moby Dick, or
yeah,
I saw a Hamlet production. It's like, oh, I did that thing now.
Yeah, so that feels a bit weird, because whenever I feel like playing video games now, I always sort of feel like I should be playing The Witcher 3, but it's done. So I'm just sort of like, oh, okay, all right. And the poll is, apparently Twitter wants me to play Yakuza 0 next, so
of course
that's going to be, well, it was either that or Okami HD.
I mean, listen, I like Okami. Platinum Games.
It's great. I like, I've played a little bit of it, and I was just so surprised how one-sided the argument was.
I mean, Amaterasu is just no Kiryu. I mean, the dad factor is just wild. He's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going from Witcher 3 to Yakuza. It's literally the 2 biggest daddies in gaming. You can't go wrong. So.
Yeah. So that's going to be a thing. I'll have more to say about that next week. But I had company this week. I had a visitor. I had a friend come and stay on my couch, and we went and did lots of things together. We went.
That's nice.
We went to So Crab So Good. Yes, we did. We went to the Storm Crow, and I rolled a critical hit on a shot, which means that they gave me a novelty shot glass, and they were really, really underwhelmed with my reaction.
Nice. Do you know what a storm crow is?
I mean, are we talking about like Lord of the Rings storm crow? Because that's what they I believe what they named the tavern for.
Okay, so I did not recall that there is a thing in Lord of the Rings called Stormcrow, but Stormcrow is also a famous Magic the Gathering card.
Yeah, it's Gandalf. They call him Gandalf Stormcrow.
Okay.
At one point in time.
I did not recall that.
He brings like really, really bad news all the time. Like Gandalf never shows up and is like, "Hey everybody, I brought donuts."
I bet the Magic thing is a reference to that. But in Magic it's also a meme because Stormcrow is a very bad card. It's like not worth playing, but it's also incredibly heavily reprinted. There was like a long period in the game's history where they put it in every set, despite the fact that it was fucking useless. It was a waste of cardboard. So it's like a meme to be like, oh, damn, Stormcrow, you gotta have 4 in your deck. I mean, it's a shame you can't have more. It's so overpowered. It's like the opposite of a Chuck Norris meme.
Right.
So
right.
that's the Stormcrow that I'm familiar with. If it's probably a reference to something else people actually know.
I think it's I can't remember his name, but it's like when Gandalf shows up to where all those horsey dudes are.
Mm-hmm. The Horse Kingdom.
The horse kingdom. The guys who like to ride each other.
Are we talking about Voltron again?
Somebody calls him Gandalf Stormcrow at some point in time because he all he does is ever bring bad tidings. But that's why they named the pub. But I got a shot glass out of it, so that was cool. And we went to the Richmond Night Market, which is just this giant fucking food festival, and I ate so many greasy things and just
You're a hungry boy.
I ate a lot last week, more than I normally do. And I watched Matt Groening's new show on Netflix, Disenchantment.
How is that?
Okay.
It is charming, actually. I quite like it. It's weird because most of Matt Groening's work has always been those kind of like one-shot jokes and things like that, but there's actually a cohesion to the first 10 episodes of this show. It has just some of the greatest throwaway jokes I've seen in any of his shows, though. Just
does he actually write any of it, or is he just like the way he was with Simpsons?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how involved he is in the writing. Most of the episodes that showed up did not seem to have his. But I'm absolutely certain.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, but it does have I'm trying to remember this one joke. I lost my shit. Oh, I can't remember. Never mind. It's not. But it's only 10 episodes. And just it's funny, but it's not it's not like any of his other shows. It's like the whole Netflix binge culture has kind of infected it. So there's an overarching plot. And I'm curious to see where it goes. I quite liked it, actually. I thought it was very amusing.
That's cool. I'm not going to watch it because Matt Groening is a dick. But besides,
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I'd rather not. But I do hear mostly good things. So that's cool.
Why is he a dick?
Especially lately. How do I put this? He's one of those guys, especially lately, who derogatorily, is that the word I'm saying? In a derogatory way, says PC culture. In response to some things that are happening.
Right.
And I don't know. That's like my red flag for a human being.
Well, can you imagine if you made your entire career on a show that's all racial stereotypes and low-hanging fruit jokes, and then suddenly it wasn't cool? I bet you'd be pretty upset that you're I got away with it. Can we just let it go? I'm good.
Yeah,
I did it.
I got mine. Yeah, I got mine. If I got mine were a person, it would be him. So yeah, pass. But I do, I certainly loved The Simpsons until I very recently decided to stop watching it, and I super love Futurama. Again, he was the creator, but very little actually involved,
yes.
especially lately.
Right.
I did look it up. He co-wrote one episode of Disenchantment.
Okay.
So yeah. Anywho,
I don't feel too bad about that then. But just so you guys know, So Crab So Good is still So Crab and also so good.
They owe us money.
I was wondering.
Sorry?
They owe us money at this point, man. We've been advertising their shit for years. I ain't got one crab out of it.
Well, you'll just have to come to town, Austin, and then we'll crab it up. We'll crab down.
Yeah, I would love to crab with you, Johnny.
I would love to crab with you too, my friend.
I think that just means we run sideways on the beach.
Okay, so I have a bunch of things, but Austin, you haven't said your thing, so give me it.
Yeah, say a thing, Austin.
All right, I have infinity things. Let's just grab a couple real quick. First, I played Mafia 3, a open world GTA style game.
What did you think of it?
I was super excited when it started because it's so stylish. It's not a normal mafia story the way the other games were like Italians and New York, Big Apple, bada boom, I'm walking here. It's a black man who comes home from Vietnam. And all the cops are super shitty. You can't even go in stores because you'll immediately be, nailed for loitering, which is a thing that happened to black people. I mean, I assume it still happens in some places, but like the game is extremely aware of the politics of its time and has such a strong sense of place. Obviously, all the licensed music that you crave, Rolling Stones, Creedence Clearwater. It's got all those old style vehicles that drive like boats. I was like, hell yeah, man, they nailed this era. I can't wait to see where this goes. And then it didn't go anywhere for 25 hours.
Ooh.
The whole game, every single mission except for like 2 or 3 set pieces, every single mission in the game is drive to the icon of the map and then kill everyone there. Drive to the icon of the map, kill everyone there. Drive to the icon of the map, kill everyone there. Again and again and again and again for dozens of hours. Because the only thing this game is taking over territory from other gangs. And to do that, you have to kill their guys. That's it. There's like, in a way...
So the surface area of the ocean, but the depth of a shot glass.
Yeah, like there's some gestures towards depth where it's like, we have to assign the districts to different underbosses, but it's really just a different way of having like a skill tree, because like one underboss gives you like more health, one gives you like better weapons or whatever, so it's kind of a narrative wrapper on a mechanic, but like... You could argue that most video games are go to the place, kill the guys, go to the place, kill the guys. Like, that's video games for a large portion of them, but they usually hide it. Like every Grand Theft Auto mission is like, man, these guys, they disrespect my family. I gotta go steal their big bike, the big fancy bike, and then I gotta blow it up on a stage in front of the people for parody reasons or something.
That is one of my favorite Grand Theft Auto missions.
There's always like something. There's just like, Lindsay Lohan's in town. We gotta tail her without being noticed and then crash into her. I don't know. They just do shit. So you don't feel like you're doing the same thing. But the game Mafia...
We talk about this all the time, about how we love to be romance.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid saying the same thing we say every week. But yes.
There's like no other way around it, is that you just kind of want, like, you want the video game to sort of like grab you by the hand and be like, hey, come this way.
Yeah, Mafia 3 starts really strong with like a cool intro, and there's like these clips interspersed of like people giving interviews about these events from our time back then, be like, I always knew that boy was trouble, let me tell you. And it's like, hell yeah, this rules. And then it drops you into the open world, and it's like, all right, here's how you capture territory. And then I started doing it, and then it was just like, oh my god, this is the whole game. It's just the whole game. It's such a huge bummer. Because it's got style, it's got an interesting character who is like a pretty bad person, but you understand why, because society is like racist to him, and they sent him off to Nam to do terrible shit for a government that doesn't care about him, and it's like, pour it on me. Like, they got it, and it's just, there's no meat to it. Just a total bummer. But it was a good podcast game, because once I understood that there was no meaningful content in there, I was like, oh, I know during set pieces they will play a song I recognize, so I'll pause the history of Rome for that. But during the driving and the shooting, I could just learn about the monetary policies of Diocletian, which I'm very interested in, because he didn't understand inflation, so he increased the rare metal value of the coins, but didn't decrease the supply, and it just fucked everything up.
What a chump!
I know. I bet he was embarrassed when he found out. So yeah, Mafia 3 was the video game I played. I also watched a movie. Probably can do this one pretty quick. It was a first-person action flick called Hardcore Henry. Have you guys seen it? I don't know what that noise means.
That noise means yes, I've seen it and I regret it.
Did it make you ill, or did you not care for it?
I just did not care for it.
Okay, so for those who don't know, it's pretty much a gimmick movie. I believe it was crowdfunded. And it's all set in first person. It's kind of meant to evoke video games, which is an interesting full circle because video games are constantly trying to be films. But it's the name and everything gives you a hint at like kind of the tone. It's this uber violent, nonstop thrill ride from the first person as if you're playing a video game. And I think the gimmick is fine. I'm just doing a Leon here. It's fine. There's a couple of sequences where it's like, oh damn, how did they film that? That's cool. But most of the action is just him killing faceless mooks who I have no emotional attachment to, and sometimes
and he has no dialogue through the entire movie.
Yeah, well,
he says nary a word.
Well, it's an intentional choice because in most first-person shooters, Gordon Freemans don't talk, so he has a voice box malfunction or something. There is one.
And I'm sorry, but for years I've been harping on about how fucking stupid that is.
I see the pros and cons. I think they made a choice and they stuck with it, and I don't mind that. It's it's a preference thing, not a quality thing.
Yeah, but it did not make for a good movie.
I think at a certain point they realized what they were making, so it's not. It doesn't have like pretensions to something greater. It's just like how many dudes can we kill with this camera the way it is. What I was gonna say is there's one really really good sequence in it that for me, like, I'm glad I watched it, and it's one where one person dances through multiple bodies. It's hard to talk about, but for spoiler reasons, but there's a dance sequence in it that's very very good and funny.
Yeah. Okay, I remember that. That was all right.
Yeah,
I just feel like it would have been much better as like a 20-minute short.
Yeah, it's more. It's one of those things where
it did not hold my attention for the entire length of its run. Because it just like, you watch it for like 20 minutes, you're like, oh, okay, I get this.
Yeah.
And it did not really go beyond that,
Yeah, it's kind of like a gimmick thing where once you get it, and then it's like, oh, more of it, huh? Okay. So
yeah, I did not. I can't recommend it.
I recommend it for just the dance sequence, and I think the rest of it is fine. I don't know. The bar for action movies is extremely high. There's a lot of really good ones these days, and just seeing like over the top mega violence. Actually what it made me reflect on is video games more than even filmmaking, because first person shooters were the dominant genre for a while there, and the storytelling was pretty samey. Like most Call of Duties are kind of the same thing when you boil it down. There's only so much you can do.
Press X to pay respects.
Yeah. Well, it's your only verb is to shoot. There's no way you can do anything else, so you can only tell so many stories, and you have to give like.
There have been first person role playing games that have tried to add character and story and things like that. Vampire Bloodlines jumps to mind.
Mm-hmm. And if this had been a first person RPG pastiche, that would have been very different.
Yes, different.
A lot of dialogue wheels in the scenes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, it just made me think about it because like there's these long unbroken like chase scenes and stuff where it's like, oh, if this was a video game, there would have been quick time events, or there would have been like failure points, which would have made you restart it a bunch of times. And I think about death in video games a lot, and how we've kind of fucking gaslit ourselves into believing death has to be one thing because that's how it worked in the arcades, and it's a real bummer that we can't rethink what that means, or if it even needs to be a component of games, the failure state. And
I think about death a lot
for other reasons, probably, but
just in general,
because it's a movie and not a game. It never enters a failure state. He just keeps going, and it gives you a sense of like what a video game would be if it was made that way. And I just think it's interesting because a lot of video games, it's like Nathan Drake can die 100 times and it's fine because you'll reload. And it's like, he didn't die then. There's no meaningful narrative consequence. You're just wasting my time with a loading screen. And so why is this even here? It's like, what does this do for the pacing? It's like stuff like that. And then it's like, what happens if you remove all of that? And I think it carries better, but it doesn't make the story any better, as we found out. So I don't know. I'm constantly frustrated by our limited imagination in video games. I feel like it could be so much more. The same way we've talked about before, like MMO had the potential to be anything, and it's always just the Warcraft thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like cinematic games with, big tentpole blockbuster games could tell different stories, but it's usually a first-person shooter where you kill a bunch of faceless bad guys.
Yeah.
And it's not great. So
If anybody saw the trailer for Hardcore Henry and was like, maybe I want to see that, just go watch the Crank movies instead.
I mean, Crank is actually pretty influenced by video games, and those movies kind of rule. So
they do actually. I'm sort of unashamed of how much I love the Crank movies.
Okay. I haven't seen them. But
there's a lot more humor and personality, and it's They have fun with it.
I mean, and the premise of those movies, if you haven't seen them, is kind of that there's a gameplay mechanic where he has to get electrocuted every once in a while, or he dies or something. He basically has to refill his health meter. It is it's a thing. But yeah, so that's a good. I like that observation, Johnny. Leon.
Oh, okay. I have something else. Okay.
Is it crab? Because I could probably go for some more crab.
Okay.
Right about now.
I have a topic, but I realize the more I think about it, the more it sounds like the whine of a moderately privileged person.
In that it ages very well.
So here goes anyway. I was disappointed by an amusement park this week.
Did you ask to speak to the manager?
No, I just left.
Did you write a suggestion and put it in the suggestion box?
No, there were too many. But I am going to talk about it here.
There were too many suggestions?
Yeah.
Wow. That seems like okay, first of all, cop to it, Leon. What amusement park did you go to?
I went to Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey. I just, had a wild hair up my ass, and I was like, you know what, I have time. I'm ahead of schedule on my work, so I can just, drive for, hours and hours and go to an amusement park today, because I heard this one is okay.
That was, just, apropos of nothing? You just decided, you were like, yeah, I'm going to Six Flags, New Jersey.
Yeah, on Saturday night, I was thinking, what can I do? And I was like, I can just go there. And then on Monday, I did, because I figured there would be less people there on a weekday. And I was right.
You think you were right.
No, there were not a lot of people.
Well, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have no comparative data set, is what I'm trying to say.
Actually, there, as a matter of fact, Johnny, there are websites that track how many people have bought tickets for a particular day, and then I.
So you do have comparative data.
I literally did.
Okay.
I literally looked
I
it
apologize.
up.
I apologize, Leon. I did not mean to insult your scientific rigor.
Yeah, and by that I mean I Googled it, and it was very easy. But anyway, I went there, and I got into it. And here's the thing about amusement parks that I like. I like going to an amusement park because in a good amusement park, it's like you're kind of stepping into another world where the normal rules aren't right. It's like a more fun going to a Renaissance fair.
Yeah, I sort of get that, where it's in normal kind of day-to-day life, you're sort of there's absolutely no reason why I would be drenched with water at this point in time. But then you go into an amusement park and you have to be careful where you stand, because at any point in time, just water might come flying out of nowhere. I'd just be like,
what I mean is okay, there's castles and stuff, and it feels and in a good amusement park they do a really good job of making it look like it is this whole other world. And you go to a Six Flags, at least this Six Flags, and it just feels like a county fair had a budget I went on a bunch of rides that I thought would be fun. And to give you an idea of what kind of rides I like dark rides where you go through it and there's like a little story. There weren't too many of them there.
So,
but
like,
I'll tell you what.
So when you say dark rides, I'm assuming you're not necessarily talking just about like the light level, but like
No, dark rides. No, dark rides meaning you're indoors and you're on like a track and things happen.
Right. Like the Tunnel of Love.
Sure, if that's for you. But yeah. So anyway, I went in and I was like, yeah, this is like moderately okay and without very much atmosphere, but maybe the rides will be fun. So I went to a ride called Skull Mountain, which I thought would be like Space Mountain because it is also a sort of indoor, all dark roller coaster. And the big difference between them, besides the fact that one says skull and one says space, is that when you, even in the line to Space Mountain, there's all these like doodads and like robots all over the place, and it's like a fun experience. Mm-hmm. But going on to Skull Mountain, you just kind of walk in a line and then you sit in a cart, and then the ride lasts 2 minutes, and then it's just kind of over and it's not that exciting. And then I was done with it and I was like, that wasn't that great. Maybe I should go to the only area in this place that's kind of like themed and they try. And that being basically Six Flags is like owned either in total or in part by Warner Brothers, which means there's a lot of superhero DC Comics stuff. So I went to that area, and it just looks very cheap, you know. It just looks really cheap, and there's like paint cracking, and they don't really work on the upkeep of it. And it just looks really low rent. And I realized that I'm feeling this way.
Is this the only Six Flags park that you've been to? Because as I understand, we don't have Six Flags parks in Canada.
No, it's not.
So,
this is not like a new feeling for me. I wasn't.
How many flags, Leon?
Shut up right now.
How many flags do they have?
The flags refer to like how many flags that Texas had, because that's where it started. That's all that means. But it's really boring. It's such a boring answer to why it's called that. But anyway, yeah, I went to like the DC Comics area, and there was a thing for one of the
Did you meet Batman?
No, I saw no costumed anyone like while I was there, which is also like a disappointing thing. Basically, to give you an idea,
it was a Monday, Leon. I mean, come on. Even Bruce Wayne needs a day off.
No. The whole, let me explain the difference between walking into Six Flags and walking into Disneyland. You walk into Disneyland and there's like fanfare music, and you're really just on the first street you're on is really just shops, but it's just lovely. And there are like old-timey people there, and like a barbershop quartet, and it's just nice. And you walk into Six Flags and it's like the feeling of being in a strip mall but outside. It's not fun. But I went into the next ride, and it's called The Dark Knight, and it is also like an indoor roller coaster, and it is Batman themed. And you wait in line, and there's a little TV, and I was like, oh, maybe they put some production value into this. Aaron Eckhart is in the TV pretending to be Harvey Dent, and I was like, okay, maybe the ride itself will also have high production value, and it was not. It was like turns. You're in a cart and you turn a lot. there's almost no like steep drops or anything. It's embarrassing. It just feels really cheap. And I went on a bunch of rides that were a lot like that throughout the whole thing, and it was just kind of cheap and unimpressive. And like there was not a lot of upkeep. The only ride that like felt like a dark ride was also one that I wasn't that interested in. It was the Justice League ride. And to give you an idea of how little effort they put into this, there is also, while you're in line, there's like a TV, and you're supposed to listen to a dialogue between the Joker and Cyborg, who is like spying on him and stuff.
Because those two are just like two peas in a pod.
Yeah. And here's the thing: you're looking at it from Cyborg's perspective, like through his like cyborg eye. But it was broken, and you could only hear Joker, and then you could see the subtitles for when Cyborg is supposed to speak under it, but you can't hear Cyborg. It's like, why is this so bad? It was kind of impressive. There were some nice 3D effects in that ride. That was like a proper dark ride, but it wasn't that great. The only ride that I really liked throughout the entire time was one called Houdini's Escape. And it was pretty good. It was clever. You go in and you're in like a room, and at first it seems really cheesy. Like there's like a voice that says, "We're going to bring Houdini's ghost back," and like a lot of like really cheesy things happen, like the lights go off and like a candle moves, and then the voice says, "Well, we've done it, everyone. We've brought back Houdini's ghost. You may now exit." And then you start to exit, but then you sit down into the real room, and the voice of Houdini comes on and says, "The charlatans, they did not bring me back because I never left." And then what happens is you're stuck in this really tight chair thing, and the room moves like you're practically up against the wall. You like the ride like rotates you up into the room, and then the rest of the room rotates in another way, so that it gives you this sort of like dizzying effect, like you're going upside down, even though you're not. And it was actually kind of clever. And that was a little fun. I was kind of disappointed. I basically breezed through all the rides that sounded cool and like had a theme to them like right away. So I was like, I guess I'll go on a couple roller coasters or something, which are fine, but they're boring to me because you're just excited for a few minutes because you're going fast, and that's just not interesting to me. I would rather go on Mr. Toad's.
You gotta go fast.
I would rather go on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride because that's just kind of fun and like cute to me. But this, I don't know. But I decided to go on one called El Toro, which is a very, very big wooden coaster. And I got there and I got to the line and they said, "Do you have anything in your pockets?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And it says, "Okay, like a phone?" I'm like, "Sure." And I said, "Okay, you have to leave your phone and things out here. So you have to like give them to someone else in your party." And I'm like, "Well, I'm just here by myself." And they said, "Oh, well then you need to buy a locker." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, you need to buy a locker from us and put your stuff in the locker. And then when the ride is over, you can take it out of the locker and we'll keep it safe for you." And I was like, am I going to go around this park buying lockers for every roller coaster I'm going to go on? Because I don't even really want to go on them. And I was like, this is such a ripoff. And after like a while, I was like, yeah, I don't want to be here, as it turns out. And I just left. It wasn't that fun for me. Also, the map was bad, and it was not clearly labeled. It's like, well, how are you so bad at this? You're not like a state fair. You're owned by a giant corporation. You should be able to be better at being a theme park, but you're not. And it was just really bad, and I left. So there was that. I do have other theme park trips planned for the rest of the year, but they are both probably going to go better. I'm going to go to Busch Gardens at some point, and that is constantly rated as the #1 most beautiful amusement park in the country. So the very fact that I know that they put a lot of effort into the atmosphere of it makes me think I might have a better time. And I'm also going to be at Universal Studios Hollywood just because I'm going to be in LA in November on business. So I'm just going to stay an extra day.
Leon, I just love it that you're just the kind of guy who will just decide I'm going to go to I'm going to go to a theme park today. I love that. That's great.
I lead a charmed life. That's why I feel weird about complaining about shit like this. But there it is. My life used to be bad, but now it's good, and like I'm my own boss, and I can kind of do whatever I want so long as I get all my work done each week. And I work hard enough that sometimes I have a day off, and I don't have to ask anyone's permission if I want to drive across several states and go to a bad theme park, which isn't as exciting as it sounds. This Thursday night, I'm going to the movies to see a movie I've seen many times before. Because it's playing, and I just
how many flags are they going to have?
They might have some. I'm seeing Krull on Thursday night, but unfortunately, I'm not sure how I feel, whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, but it's not just Krull. It's actually a live Riff Tracks performance of Krull, where they're going to
Krull Deluxe.
Yeah, they're gonna like make little jokes about it. It's happening live somewhere, and it's going to be like simulcast, if that's the word, in like theaters. And I'm going to go to a theater and watch Krull, and also maybe hear some jokes about Krull, because I really like that movie. Yeah, that's it. That's what I wanted to say about that, mediocre theme park. I'm sorry if you like Six Flags parks. I've been to 2. They're fine. Yeah, they're fine if you love roller coasters. They are great theme parks because they have a bunch. But if you like
dark rides,
yeah, if you like dark rides, if you like going on Peter Pan's Flight more than the Wild Mouse or whatever the fuck roller coasters are called, then that's then they're not for you because they don't really traffic in that. That's basically it. I had significantly more fun going on Peter Pan's Flight than I had at any like high thrill ride at Six Flags. I got on I don't even like that movie. I'm not even sure I've seen it all the way through. But I got on Peter Pan's Flight, and it's really beautiful. And it really feels like you're above a city at one point. I mean, obviously I'm not. But it looks nice, and they try real hard with that illusion. And then Peter Pan says, like, second star on the right, or something like that. And I nearly cried. It was just really lovely.
Did you eat a bunch of trashy amusement park food?
While I was... at Six Flags or at Disneyland?
At Six Flags.
No, I didn't eat anything. I thought I was going to have like a funnel cake, but I just got I was like, this place is not going to take $1 more of my money, and I'm just going to drive back.
Not even for a funnel cake, huh? Wow.
No,
that is a searing indictment of Six Flags, New Jersey.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but fuck all that. I'm not going to do it. I did eat a bunch of bad food at Disneyland. I will say this. They don't have very good food at Disneyland. You would think that they're, with the amount of money they pump into it in every other way, that they would, but they don't. Except for desserts. They have, ice cream and, pineapple stuff that's good. But, trying to eat, a burger there is, not even a McDonald's level burger. And trying to... And they gave me, I bought. I forget if they called it an enchilada or something. They called it one of the Mexican names for those things, but I'm pretty sure that it was not what that was. It was just a wrapped thing with they injected it with a tubed substance. It was like paste. There was a meat bean paste inside, and it was this is fine, but I'm at Disneyland. Why don't you have a higher caliber of food? You put so much money into your movies and theme parks. Why am I eating such trash?
Nutrient pastes are popular with millennials. We love the Soylent. We love the just the bare minimum gray slop because
raw water. Yeah,
we just have to keep going to our other jobs, and we don't have time for food.
Yeah.
Does Disneyland have Epcot, or is that a Disney World exclusive?
Disney World. Disney World has the 4 theme parks, and Disneyland just has 2.
That sounds like it sucks.
Well, Disneyland in and of itself, just that park, is great. But Disney World has more options.
I've only ever been to Disney World, and they have a soda fountain in Epcot, which has sodas from every country, and that's what Disney World is to me. Just trying weird Italian sodas.
Yeah, I am going to go to Disney World sometime next year and go to all 4 of their parks that they have in Disney World, and that will be a lot of fun. I can't just afford to at this very moment, but I will. I will just save up a little money. And that'll be it, and that'll be the thing I do for myself next year.
What? You guys are going to be in the same state together?
Yeah, I actually looked it up, and Tallahassee is nowhere near Orlando. It's hours away.
Florida is the size of most countries.
It's very big. But of course, Austin, if you would like to make like a several hour drive to wave at me as I enter Disney World, you feel free.
We have a blood pact on this podcast. If any of us are in the same place, there can only be one. Highlander rules.
Yeah, it's true.
Decapitation only.
Okay.
Items on.
I mean,
in that case, I'm not.
Some groin stuff.
Yeah, in that case, I'm not going to tell you when I'm going to be there, and then I'm going to escape, and then tell you, haha, I was in Florida the whole time.
I'm following you around the giant golf ball.
Oh my. But yeah, looking forward to that at least. And that is it. That's all I wanted to say. We're pretty much at the point when we go into questions, unless you guys have like something really urgent to say.
I mean, I do. I constantly have stuff, Leon.
I have a few other topics as well, but like we've been through this.
You just like all I got is food this week. That's it. You know,
Okay.
Johnny's a hungry boy.
Food is good.
I ate a lot of food.
I've lowered my carbs, and now I've lost weight just from doing that. So that's nice. I was surprised by how many carbs I put into my body until I realized that all of my meals usually have bread in them. So I really like sandwiches.
Sandwiches are good.
Yeah, but then I realized if I just reduce my carbs, that alone might actually make me lose weight, and it did.
So you're on lettuce wraps now? Is that right?
I do eat a bunch of lettuce wraps now. It's fine. It's not great, but it's it's working. So I'm gonna keep doing it until it stops working. That's my plan.
Right now, my kitchen smells like somebody just spilled bacon juice all over it.
Oh.
Because spoiler, I spilled a bunch of bacon juice all over my kitchen.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that
explains
exactly. That is exactly what happened.
You crack the case, dude.
Yeah. Do you want to do questions?
We sure can do questions. Somehow this didn't come up, so we might as well do it first. These Long Wars on Twitter asks me, as a lawyer in training, what do you make of the ongoing legal actions against current and former members of the Trump campaign and administration?
Haha, eat it.
Yeah, this entire week...
That's my reaction.
This entire week was a fucking log flume of huge, what should have been earth-shattering developments that mostly people were like, well, yeah, obviously they're guilty.
Nobody seems to give a shit.
Yeah, half of the country is saying that. The other half is saying, what are crimes?
Yeah, or what are crimes, or... but come on.
Right. Stuff like that. Yeah.
He's only found guilty on 8 counts. It could have been worse. He's only going to jail for a long time.
So what do we have here? All right. So Manafort pled guilty, is that right?
No, he was found guilty.
No, Manafort was
found
guilty.
Guilty. Who was it that pled guilty then?
Cohen's pleading out.
That was Cohen.
Right. Cohen pled guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the vaping congressman who embezzled money for Steam purchases has been indicted, and his wife, the best corruption, folks. I say it, we got the best corruption.
But I mean, still, guys, right? No collusion. There's been no collusion.
That's actually the funny thing. I mentioned the way that conservatives will keep moving the goalposts. Whenever something happens, they will move the goalposts. Like, the first they'll say, Mueller hasn't found anything. And then, a bunch of Americans and, Russians have been, indicted. And then conservatives will say, well, nobody's guilty, though. And then a bunch of people have pled guilty or, have turned state witness. And then they'll say, well, no one's been convicted in a court of law, and then Manafort just has, and then they'll say but he was found. There was a hung jury on most of the charges, and they're fuck off, you're just gonna keep moving it until someone basically says crimes aren't real. Until there's no other argument besides I like Trump, so whatever.
Yeah, what was it that Rudy Giuliani said this week? The truth isn't the truth, or some shit like that.
Yeah, truth isn't the truth, and I'm sure he actually meant it in a way that doesn't sound Orwellian, but it just did.
What he meant in context was that people have different views of events because people have unique perspectives, and I guess it's just not relevant.
Yeah,
he says, Trump can't testify because there is no such thing as objective truth. Rudy Giuliani just wants there to be ethics in games journalism where the reviews are objective. And
absolutely.
Right now, the SJW journalists are being subjective, and they're saying their opinions on the video games.
Yes, when you press the A button, he jumps, and this works most of the time. 10 out of 10. Would A button again.
My legal analysis of this whole situation is that they've had enough to indict all these people for years, and they just haven't because they're rich and powerful. You don't see this kind of foot dragging when black people get caught with weed. They just go to jail. There's a double standard. The way that our justice system works. You have to be caught so fucking red-handed to go to jail as a rich person, and even then you can drag it out for years and people will throw themselves in front of the bus for you over and over and over and over for years. And the fact that Manafort was convicted and all these people are being convicted, Papadopoulos and all these people, it's mind-boggling how corrupt and how obvious it was. To get caught in this climate and then to actually have to face consequences is hilarious. How bad do you have to be at crime to go to jail as one of these people? It's bananas.
Yeah. I read an article that says basically during Cohen's testimony, I guess, he basically implicated Trump without actually saying his name, but in such a way that there was no way that it could have been anyone else.
Of course, because of the whole two clients that he has.
Yeah, he says the federal candidate for president without actually saying Donald Trump's name. It's okay, so were you also representing Hillary Clinton? No? Oh, okay, then we know who you're talking about. But no, basically he implicated Trump, and I read an article that says the only reason that Trump isn't indicted literally right now is because there are a lot of legal scholars who says it's simply impossible to do so for the president. Some people disagree, and there's apparently an argument to be made against it. I'm not,
it's not settled law. Expert. It's never happened, so there's no precedent. It was going to happen with Nixon, which is why he resigned, so that there wouldn't be settled law.
Yeah, and the thing is, if there is an actual indictment for Trump, it would almost certainly go to the Supreme Court, and since the Supreme Court is, let's say, friendly to Trump, I would say that there's a pretty solid chance that it would go in his favor. So in reality, it will take an act of Congress, and because impeachment, the House impeaches and then the Senate convicts, and unless the Senate is also made up of Democrats who are really into this idea, I don't know how there can be a conviction.
What a cool functional country where the leader can just do crimes in public and we can't stop him.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I'm sorry, but by saying
it's a real revolutionary style of democracy that you guys have invented.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, by saying you can't indict the president, you are effectively saying that he is above the law.
Why don't you checks and balance these nuts?
Yeah, there's almost no way to make him accountable.
And we all know the only person who is actually above the law is Steven Seagal, circa 1991, I want to say.
Wow. It's a deep cut. So I guess those are our thoughts. We could, unless anyone has anything.
No, I mean, try that next time. You got to go to traffic court, Leon, and it's to be well, I didn't collude, so it's not really a crime, or truth isn't truth. That's just not how it works unless you can pay to make it work that way. So.
Your Honor, let me hit you with some alternative facts.
Yeah. Actually, Your Honor, there's someone named QAnon, and they've led me to believe that Hillary Clinton has actually been arrested and convicted in secret. and
yes,
she and Robert Mueller are pedophiles. I think is that what this? Okay, the fact that I had to explain that with my human
our
mouth.
smart boy president is the one who can save us from all this terrible deep state.
The idea that I would have to explain what QAnon is to our audience hurt me. I don't want them to know. I want to save them. I want to protect them. I want to cradle them like little babies and keep them away from the
someone
bad.
tried to do that in my comment section, and I was like, nah, I'm going to delete this. Basically, my comments are on approved only, largely for reasons like that. Sorry. The crazies ruined it for everyone. Let's do another question.
I forgot.
He forgot.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I forgot. I got a VR game this week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Called Megaton Rainfall, which is basically like Superman, the game.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, you like put your hands out and like squeeze the triggers, and then it will like start flying in that direction, and you could shoot like laser beams out of your hands and stuff like that. And it's just like,
did you become a Christ allegory?
I absolutely did. I flew to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And then
that's where Jesus lives.
Like, put my arms out and then like slowly fell to Earth. And then blew a bunch of aliens up.
Nice.
Yeah. It's it will make you sick. It did not make me sick. I'm still running on like that only that one goddamn time that I ever got sick or felt sick when I was playing VR. But like, it is like Superman the game, and it's really simple, but it's like Superman the game in VR. So that's something that you can like stick in your backpack.
I give it 4 out of 6 flags.
Sounds reasonable. Next question.
Cyretha asks, Leon, are you excited for the Undertaker versus Triple H match coming to Australia? Parentheses. Do you want to do this one?
Wrestling.
That's sensual.
Ooh. Nice.
Well, it is the Undertaker and Triple H, so I expect there to be a lot of sweat, grease, and like odor. Pheromones, you know?
Yeah, it'll be filmed in smell-o-vision. Not really. Undertaker is very old, and Triple H is also old, but like in good shape for a person his age.
Those were like the main characters of wrestling when I was a kid. Like, I don't know that much about wrestling, but that's the thing I actually do know.
Yeah, they were of a different era, and they are coming back for like another match. And Triple H actually came out on Raw and says, at the risk of sounding like a bitter veteran, our era was something special, and we're gonna do it one more time. And he cut a good promo that almost made me excited for the match until I realized that it's gonna be two elderly gentlemen having a match together. It might be fun. You don't have to be a super athlete to make a good, compelling match. You just need like psychology and like a story that comes into play.
Old sweaty hugs. Old sweaty hugs.
Right. But no, I'm not particularly excited for this match. Sorry. I will watch the show because I have the network anyway. I'm paying for it, so I might as well, sit down and watch that match and the other matches that are going to be more fun on that show. The show has, I realize now that the show is called Super Showdown because it's happening in Australia, like down under, like haha. But without that context, it just sounds like the most generic sounding like pay-per-view show, the Super Showdown, which actually reminds me of the, and this is true, WrestleMania was almost not called WrestleMania. It was initially going to be called, and this is not a joke, the Colossal Tussle. That is what it was going to be called. And Super Showdown is only slightly better.
I think that is, like, no joke here. That is what my old ex-girlfriend called the first time we laid together, biblically.
Oh, my God. So, yeah, those are my feelings on that. It might be okay. I'm going to watch the show, not so much for that match, but for, like, Daniel Bryan versus The Miz and some other stuff. So,
Okie dokie. Another news story based question here. Schools Out at Insomnia1995 on Twitter asks, how does one deal with the fact that a gaming company they like can consist of some shitty people? Parentheses, yes, it's about Cyberpunk. So if you guys didn't see,
yeah,
the hot gaming story this week was the Twitter account for CD Projekt Red, and I guess it's just Cyberpunk 2077 in general, tweeted a transphobic joke. Everyone said, yo, that sucks, and they deleted it, and they did a, we sorry if we offended you. Follow up.
Not the best apology. Here's the thing. Like, that's shitty. Like, that is unambiguously shitty. But here's the thing. Do we know if like the president of the company is running that Twitter account, or if it's just like some intern that they hired to do that?
I'm 95% sure it's not the president of CD Projekt Red. But
right, that's kind of what I mean. Like this Twitter account used to promote this video game, but that I definitely will not play, is not necessarily like indicative of what the game will be or what the developers think. It's probably just some guy who is probably not good at his job, and might actually have been now replaced by some other faceless person.
It's a little different when we're dealing with like Notch or something like that, you know, because it's like you're a one-man like team. Everything that you say about your games, even though like technically speaking, I guess Notch doesn't run Minecraft anymore.
Right. But his Twitter account is Notch saying stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You know, as opposed to, like you said, some kind of intern. Like if I'm just gonna draw a quick parallel here because
I love seeing the analogy wheels spin up on Johnny because it's always like, all right, so what food?
Actually, like
this is kind of.
I'm gonna draw from another game company when you started saying, you know, like how do you reconcile with a shitty company that et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The first thing I thought that maybe you were going to be talking about was Stardock. Stardock Games, because I don't know if you know what's going on right now with Stardock Games, but they're currently in the middle of trying to publish a Star Control game called Star Control Origins that they think they bought off Atari back when Atari collapsed, like way the fuck back when.
Isn't the Stardock CEO like a Goomy Gator?
Yeah, Brad Wardell is a shitbag.
He fucking sucks on ice.
And and he's even gone so far as to hire like Adam Baldwin in I think to do voices in Star Control Origins. So not only that, right, where it's like, okay, Brad Wardell's a dick, but the thing is that Fred Ford and Paul Reich III, the two gentlemen who created Star Control, as well as like Skylanders. You know, like these guys have been working in the games industry for fucking decades now, had decided that they wanted to go back and make a Star Control 3. Star Control 2 is like one of my favoritist games of all fucking time. And if you're curious about what it's about, you don't even need to buy it, because they gave the source code for the game away. And there's an HD version that you can get called the Urquan Masters. That's UR-QUAN. One of my favorite fucking games of all time. And when the company that originally tried to make Star Control 3, they made it without Fred Ford and Paul Reich III, and it was bad. Just this past year, they decided that they wanted to revisit the Star Control and actually make like a real Star Control 3. And of course, Stardock, which only owns the trademark and like none of the intellectual property, has decided to slap the creators of this game with like a multi-million-dollar lawsuit and is trying to like scoop up copyrights and trademarks for alien races and like character names and all this other shit that these guys are responsible for making, while trying to like undercut their authority and being like, oh, they were barely involved in the creation of this game in the first place. And so, like, currently, Fred Ford and Paul Reich III, operating under the company named Dogar and Kazon, are trying to crowdfund a legal defense because Stardock is basically trying to sue them into submission. Like, it's very reminiscent of what Bethesda did to Human Head Studios with Prey, which was like, underfund them, undercut them, and then, oh, gee, all of a sudden, like, the rights to this IP come back to us.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, but here's the thing, is that I want new Star Control games. Like I said, Star Control 2 is one of my favoriteest fucking games of all time. And at first I was like, oh, so both, Dogar and Kazon and Stardock are making their own fucking Star Control games. That could be cool. Like, I would like for both of those things to happen. But then for fucking Stardock Games to just slap this fucking lawsuit on the creators of the fucking franchise and be like, just dicks about it, is fucking ridiculous. But the thing is that's because of fucking Brad Wardell. That's the guy who runs the company. He's an asshole. So I feel no compunctions whatsoever about saying I'm not going to buy fucking Stardock's Star Control Origins game because Brad Wardell is being a shitheel about it, as opposed to, some poor fucking intern that's running, like, the CD Projekt Red Twitter and probably did not know that, like, the intonations behind which that tweet.
Yeah, I didn't really specify, but it's one of those things where it like unfunny chuckle fucks think they're doing an edgy joke. Like, It wasn't just like straight up hate, but it was a oh, did you assume my gender joke, which is not a thing trans people actually say, because confronting cis people is a good way to get murdered. So it's just not, first of all, it's not real. Second of all, it's usually coming from a place of hate. So even if you don't mean it, which there's no indication this person had any malice, I think that the actual, like, origin was that, like, Cyberpunk is a really diverse genre, and there was new screenshots with people who were, like, not gender conforming. So I don't think this was like a fucking alt-right guy running the account. It was just a thoughtless thing that people say without thinking about people who are hurt. Just like this is just PSA time. If you don't know, there's like this fucking joke that people keep repeating about attack helicopters, which is really transphobic, and people keep having to explain why. And it's like, if you exist online, I feel like you should know this by now, but just in case you haven't heard, it's not funny. Stop. So yeah,
go check out the Urquan Masters HD.
That's the lesson, yeah.
Yeah, that's the lesson. And after that, go find Dogar and Kazon online and see if you can't contribute a little bit of money to their legal defense fund, because Brad Wardell and Stardock are being punk-ass motherfuckers.
Yeah, stop giving dickholes money, because that just makes them more powerful and they can be dickholes more. It's just like it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, don't do it.
That will only increase the hole.
Yeah. If there was no incentive for being dickholes, people wouldn't be dickholes as much. Sometimes it's just an incurable personality trait, but generally it's an incentivized behavior. Here's a sort of related question here. Omnilord Integrated at Spatial Shepherd on Twitter asks, how is Cyberpunk so hard to understand? As someone who's doing a Cyberpunk season of my other show and has been really interested in the reaction to it, do you guys, okay, so when people say Cyberpunk, they think, oh, neon lights, they think Blade Runner. What to you is the actual core of the genre?
I haven't seen enough to have an authoritative voice on this. To me, like, when I think of Cyberpunk, I just think of, like, the few Cyberpunk movies that I've seen. I don't read Cyberpunk fiction.
That's so wild.
Do you want to get into it, Austin? Because we can get into it here.
A little bit.
Go
I just
ahead.
think it's funny because, listen, Leon's favorite movie is Blade Runner, right? Or like,
Yeah, it is.
Okay, and so you're not familiar with the genre of your favorite movie, and this is a mistake I made because going into this season of Dice Funk,
it's fine.
I assumed people kind of knew what Cyberpunk was, and it has come to my attention that most people don't have any familiarity with it at all, and if they do, it's only very narrow.
Yeah.
I have enough familiarity that I've seen a few movies about it and that I read some things about it, but I don't like sit down and read cyberpunk novels because like I'm usually reading other things.
Cool, important, smart people stuff.
And I would basically say, like a near future world where technology has spun up much faster than human morality is able to contend with.
Right, that's more or less what I thought it would be. I thought there was also like a sort of like losing our humanity quality to it, and with the creation of other beings.
Well,
and like
that's
cybernetic,
the interesting thing about Cyberpunk is that you can either look at it in a certain way. You can look at it in a way of us being able to lift ourselves up through the use of technology, or you can look at it as us bogging ourselves down through the use of technology. So, like a loss of humanity. Transhumanism in Cyberpunk is not necessarily one thing or the other. You know, like, because it doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, look, the internet's bad.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a bunch of different themes. They don't always have to be the same things, like transhumanism or like losing our identity or anything like that. It can be many different things. Mm-hmm. For me, what's interesting is that people all seem to have different ideas of the importance of the word punk in the phrase cyberpunk, right?
Yeah,
cyber everyone agrees on.
A lot of people ignore that. A lot of people ignore the disruptive elements of cyberpunk, where they're just sort of like you said, neon lights, and like, you know, dingy dark alleyways, but then like, oh, why does it have to be so political?
It has punk in the name. Anyway, I talked about this on Twitter before. I won't go too deep into it, but for me, I feel like the aesthetics has seeped so much farther away from the actual stories of the genre that that nobody has any idea anymore of what it came from. Like I guess no one's actually read like Philip K. Dick or, you know, a Burning Chrome or Neuromancer or Snow Crash or Accelerando.
I've read Neuromancer.
Thank you, Johnny. I've just come to understand this recently.
I did it for you.
Yeah, it's all about me. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember where this quote was from. It might have been from the tabletop game Cyberpunk, or it might have been Shadowrun. But there was an encapsulation of the genre which says high tech, low life. So high tech, obviously gadgets, but low life, both in the sense that usually the protagonists are low lives and they're hackers or thieves, and also just that life has a low value. People are disposable.
Yeah.
And easily thrown away. And like most cyberpunk stories end with the protagonists dead, like damaged in some way. Like I'm trying to remember. I think it was Neuromancer ends with like they can't hack anymore, or like just.
Or you wander into like the wrong medical clinic, and then the guy behind the counter is like, "Hey, you know, don't worry, just take a seat." And then like all the doors slam down, and then this very handsome dude behind the counter just like disappears, and a bunch of like mercenaries show up and try and gun you down.
Yeah, people should play the Shadowrun games.
I seem to recall playing a video game in which something like that happened, and that was a very, very, very handsome guy. So
also both Blade Runners have that kind of ending where it's just like the system is going to dehumanize and or kill you. There is no hope because we've already given up all of our recourse, and the punk is to fight against that. And so much cyberpunk or things that claim to be cyberpunk are just like, what if we took those aesthetics and we just did something else entirely? Yeah. I'm not a genre purist necessarily. I'm not saying everything has to be one way. I've been shocked over the last year to find how far afield people's understanding of the genre is from my personal one. And this kind of comes back to the video game Cyberpunk 2077 and how people are shocked every time CD Projekt confirms that, yes, it will be political. And it's like, how could it not be?
Yeah. I mean, probably, the most famous Cyberpunk video game of all time, I would argue, Deus Ex, is, like, the original Deus Ex is all about, like, the disillusionment of being in the system and people as property and things like that, and how it's like, hey, congratulations, your body belongs to the government now. Oh, but what happens if the agency that owns your body, it actually turns out is really not all that great, and you're on the lam, and, like, it is, like, it's an inherently political concept of, like, owning people.
Yeah, I mean, all art is political, but here specifically, it's when people say, like, oh, this is too political, what they mean is, this reminds me of what's on the news. I realize that that's actually what they mean, and Cyberpunk has always been that, so that's just...
Yeah.
If you... Basically, to go back to, like, my thing real quick, a couple notes. Asking me, have you read a lot of this genre? I almost only read nonfiction, so it's not that I've avoided cyberpunk. I've just also avoided most horror novels and most adventure novels and most spy novels and stuff like that, because that's just not the thing that I read in this stage of my life. Here's the terrible thing, though. I just realized that I am reading a cyberpunk novel right now.
Oh, shit. It's Ready Player One.
You're reading Ready Player One, that's right.
Yeah. I'm for anyone who's new to the show and has no idea why I would read such a thing. It's going to be an episode of my show about the movie. Well, sort of about the movie, but also like some troubling stuff that's in the book, and I'm not entirely sure how much of it is in the movie yet.
But wouldn't you agree that, just based on this conversation we just had, Ready Player One is the poster boy for misunderstanding the whole thing? Because it's all about this future world with this controlled by this corporation feeding you this nostalgia, and the book's message is like, it's pretty cool how the DeLorean is here.
Yeah, I'm reading the novel. I'm reading the novel, and I keep waiting for there to be like a part where where someone says, the Oasis is basically bad. And there's like this one like sentence where like another character remarks that it might be damaging because we're focused on the Oasis and not on how some things are bad in the world. But mostly the novel is really wants the reader to love Ghostbusters.
Yeah, like I haven't read the book, full disclosure, but the premise is like people are like jammed into like small trailers that are stacked on top of each other, like a million in every direction, because the whole world has been like ravaged by inequality, and everyone is basically living out the only solace they can find in this video game, which is the most damning indictment of human nature humanly possible. And the message of the book is like, hell yeah, gonna do a sweet flip in my branded everything.
Yeah, there's like a tonal dissonance in the novel where I feel like the author really did think he might have been trying to say something, but he also just clearly really loves all this shit and is making it sound very cool, or trying to. And it's like it's the framing is wrong. I'll try to put it in a more eloquent terms when I actually make the episode next month. But yeah, I have thoughts. It's kind of shit. Yeah, that's it. We can probably move on to one more question before we go, right?
Only one, Johnny.
Johnny, help! We're almost out of time.
So many questions. Let's see here.
I wish I could.
Yeah. Here's a related one. Your good green boy at Iron Isaac on Twitter asks, most evil fictional mega corporation. This is a great segue because mega evil corporations are a very cyberpunk thing. And when I had one in Dicefunk, people were very upset about how evil it was. And it's like, it's just the genre is my thing. But
I just finished playing Doom, and the UAC is pretty evil. They want to solve the world's energy crisis by well, really, they want to profit from the world's energy crisis by harnessing power that's literally from hell. Mm-hmm. And
listen,
like spoilers.
Listen, Leon, they're not here to make history; they're here to make money.
Yeah, right. It's just that history happens incidentally.
Right. I spoilers for the end of Doom, I guess. I beat Doom, and at the end, I don't know about villain. The guy who sort of guides you but also is against you says, yes, well, you've defeated the demons, but clearly we still want to do exactly what we were doing before at the beginning of this game, so you can go away now, and I'm just gonna keep doing it. It seems like I should keep trying to do this, even though it is a spectacularly bad idea. It's the thing is like that seems like so mind-numbingly stupid, and yet that is genuinely how a lot of companies operate. They just aren't like vaudevillian, kind of mustache twirling villains about it. They just say, well, it gives people jobs, so we should probably keep killing the planet.
Yeah, I was doing a lot of research into the East India Company for my season of Dice Funk, but it's like there was once a company, there was a corporation on this earth which had the largest army on the continent, and they swept across, murdering literally uncountable numbers of people. Like, we don't know how many, because there were so many that it just became not possible to track. Like, that's how companies are when there's no limits. Like, if demon energy was real, it would absolutely be invested in immediately.
I gotta answer this question because I'm kind of at a toss up right now. It's either the company from Moon, or
spoilers,
or They Live.
Well, yeah, I mean, They Live is just like everybody. Yeah. When I read this question, immediately what jumped to mind was Umbrella from Resident Evil. But are they just...
They don't make sense, though. That's the thing about Umbrella that I just don't fucking get. I'm just like, how do you guys make money?
It's the line between evil and stupid is occasionally very thin, and we've seen that a lot in 2018. But
I know, but like I would totally understand. All right, I would totally understand it if it was like if we saw other things about the Umbrella Corporation, about how Umbrella vaccinates your children and the new Umbrella car or things like that, But it's like the only thing we ever see Umbrella do is be like, we made a zombie.
Yeah,
that's the same thing with Weyland Yutani.
Yeah.
They probably do tons and tons of other stuff, because of the narrow focus of the movies, we just know that they really want to weaponize a xenomorph. Yeah. They're really into it, across centuries. In fact, they can't let it go.
To a fiction-breaking degree, some might argue.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm totally with them at the point of we should sell biological weapons to make money because the world is an unstable place full of dangerous people. That is a great method to make profit. Just ask Raytheon. Boom, got him. But once you just realize, if there's going to be nothing left because everyone's zombies, where are you going to spend the money? I guess that's just a great indictment of capitalism. It's just all short-term profits, no long-term thinking. Like right now, people are making money hand over fist in the fossil fuel industry, and soon the planet will be destroyed. It's really, if you think about it, a great takedown of that entire. Yeah.
There's this part in the movie Cube.
I love Cube and Cube 2 Hypercube.
Yeah, Cube is a really good movie, and spoilers for Cube, if you've never seen it,
seriously,
skip ahead a minute. They're wandering around this dungeon of sorts, and they're trying to figure out how they got in this dungeon, and they're trying to figure out why anyone would create this dungeon full of traps where you just wander around and it kills people, and they eventually figure out that someone in their party made a very, very small part of this thing, and no one can remember why they started making it. And then one of the characters asks, well, why did they start putting people in it and killing them? And the guy says, because if they didn't, they would have to admit that it made no sense. And it's like it's and you laugh, but it's actually like the scariest line in horror.
No, I cubed it up when I was a teenager.
Yeah,
I got so cubed so good.
It's a very good movie. The sequels are like, but like
Hypercube though.
It has more.
That's not just a regular cube, Leon.
Yeah,
that's a hypercube.
And Cube Zero has less.
Yeah, we're out of time.
According to my math. Yeah, we are definitely out of time.
Cube 4 was actually just about a sphere, weirdly enough.
They really fucked it up.
Okay, we need
Which
to
is
stop.
strange because the movie Sphere, not that many spheres in it.
Oh, another great evil mega corporation is the Mishima Zaibatsu from Tekken. I love that their business plan is just throw fighting tournaments every year. I don't know how they make any return on that investment. It rules.
No idea.
Yeah.
The Gizmonic Institute from Mystery Science Theater 3000.
I finally finished watching the most recent season of Mystery Science Theater 3000 because I kept feeling like, do I even like this anymore?
I think the new cast members do a great job.
They by the end of it, I was like, okay, this is charming enough that I'll probably watch the next season of it, and we'll see how that goes. I was going to talk about Octopath Traveler this week, but we're out of time, so maybe next week. I like it. The end. Yeah, it's very good.
A fight item run game.
Oh yeah, it's a turn-based JRPG in that style, but framed differently because you pick what character you want, and then you can find other characters, but none of the characters have anything to do with the other. They just have their own singular story.
Or
like
do they?
Form a team. Form a team anyway. It's weird in that sense, but I do enjoy playing it. I started playing as Primrose. She's my main character, I guess, but I found some others.
Okay, wait. I got a new one. Have you guys seen the movie Spotlight?
The investigative journalism movie?
The church in that movie?
The Catholic Church?
Just fucking awful, man.
Jesus
just the Roman Catholic Church.
I can't believe you done this.
Okay, let's leave.
That was fictional, right? Like that didn't happen?
End the show.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's I have a Pope story. You know what? Next week.
Write it down.
Next week.
Write it down.
It's in my. Everybody, Leon's got a Pope story.
Now that your roses bloom,